Section 3 of The Brushwood Boy by Rudyard Kipling. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Liam Neely. It is not unpleasant to spend 28 days in an easy-going steamer on warm waters in the company of a woman who lets you see that you're head and shoulders superior to the rest of the world, even though that woman may be, and often is, 10 counted years your senior. P&O boats are not lighted with the disgustful particularity of Atlantic liners. There is more phosphorescence at the bows, and greater silence and darkness by the hand-steering gear aft. Awful things might have happened to Georgie, but for the little fact that he had never studied the first principles of the game he was expected to play. So, when Mrs. Zuleika at Aden told him how motherly an interest she felt in his welfare, medals, brevet, and all, Georgie took her at the foot of the letter, and promptly talked of his own mother, 300 miles nearer each day, of his home, and so forth, all the way up the Red Sea. It was much easier than he supposed to converse with a woman for an hour at a time. Then Mrs. Zuleika, turning from parental affection, spoke of love in the abstract as a thing not unworthy of study, and in discreet twilights after dinner demanded confidences. Georgie would have been delighted to supply them, but he had none, and did not know it was his duty to manufacture them. Mrs. Zuleika expressed surprise and unbelief, and asked those questions which deep asks of deep. She learned all that was necessary to conviction, and, being very much a woman, resumed — Georgie never knew that she had abandoned — the motherly attitude. "Do you know," she said, "somewhere in the Mediterranean, I think you're the very dearest boy I've ever met in my life, and I'd like you to remember me a little. You will when you're older, but I want you to remember me now. You'll make some girl very happy." "Oh, I hope so," said Georgie gravely, "but there's heaps of time for marrying and all that sort of thing, ain't there?" "That depends. Here are your bean-bags for the ladies' competition. I think I'm growing too old to care for these tamashas." They were getting up sports, and Georgie was on the committee. He never noticed how perfectly the bags were sewn, but another woman did, and smiled once. He liked Mrs. Zuleika greatly. She was a bit old, of course, but uncommonly nice. There was no nonsense about her. A few nights after they passed Gibraltar, his dream returned to him. She who waited by the brushwood pile was no longer a little girl, but a woman with black hair that grew to a widow's peak, combed back from her forehead. He knew her for the child in black, the companion of the last 6 years, and, as it had been in the time of the meetings on the lost continent, he was filled with delight unspeakable. They, for some dreamland reason, were friendly, or had gone away that night, and the two flitted together over all their country, from the brushwood pile up the 30-mile ride, till they saw the house of the sick thing, a pin-point in the distance to the left, stamped through the railway waiting-room, where the roses lay on the spread breakfast-tables, and returned by the ford and the city they had once burned for sport, to the great swells of the downs under the lamp-posts. Wherever they moved, a strong singing followed them underground, but this night there was no panic. All the land was empty except for themselves, and at the last — they were sitting by the lamp-post, hand in hand — she turned and kissed him. He woke with a start, staring at the waving curtain of the cabin door. He could almost have sworn that the kiss was real. Next morning The ship was rolling in a Biscay sea, and people were not happy. But as Georgie came to breakfast, shaven, tubbed, and smelling of soap, several turned to look at him because of the light in his eyes and the splendour of his countenance. "Well, you look beastly fit," snapped a neighbour. "Anyone left you a legacy in the middle of the bay?" Georgie reached for the curry with the seraphic grin. "I suppose it's the getting so near home, and all that. I do feel rather festive this morning. Rolls a bit, doesn't she?" Mrs. Zuleika stayed in her cabin till the end of the voyage, when she left without bidding him farewell, and wept passionately on the dockhead for pure joy of meeting her children, who, she had often said, was so like their father. End of section 3. Recording by Liam Neely.